The first day of spring was uncommonly damp and cool. So dull and gray was the life of the young woman who looked out the window in the early morning and longed. Elizabeth was sitting on the old sofa in the small kitchen, drinking tea that had cooled long ago and finishing a slice of apple pie. Today was her 31st birthday, and this simple breakfast on the kitchen table was all she could afford at the moment. Before she blew out the candle, she concentrated on her wish and whispered the cherished words aloud. I want life in our family to get better. The pie and tea seemed tasteless to the birthday girl. It used to be different, and it wasn't about the type of apples or the cinnamon. Elizabeth was widowed a year ago. Her husband Michael was hit in a crosswalk by a rascal on his way home from work. It was evening, and none of the bystanders remembered the license plate number. Elizabeth learned of the tragedy only in the morning, when she returned from her night shift. With Michael, they were truly happy. The lack of money and eternal debts did not prevent the couple from sincerely loving each other. They had been together since high school. The awkward 3-year-old Michael immediately took a liking to a schoolmate who transferred to them from another school. For her sake, the boy liked to read books, became interested in classical music, made friends with sports. Now it was hard to recognize Michael. Love transformed him. Trying to live up to his sweetheart, the boy began to take part in the social life of the school, carefully preparing homework and staying up late in the library. But that was not how Michael won Elizabeth's heart. Modest and terse guy was always there for her in a difficult moment, and she quickly got used to the fact that he can always be relied upon. Suddenly, she fell in love with this shy young man who on the day of acquaintance could not associate 2 words. After graduating from high school, the young people decided not to part ways and went to the same university together. But here's the problem. Michael could not get the necessary number of points for admission. The young man went into the army. Elizabeth was not frightened by these difficulties, and she was determined to wait for her beloved. A year flew by, and when the young man returned from the army, they got married. 9 months later, they had a strong baby boy whom they named Liam. After a while, Elizabeth had to transfer to a correspondence program, and Michael got a job as a construction worker. At first, everything went smoothly, and the young family had enough money. They even managed to save money. Everything collapsed in an instant when Michael lost his high-paying job. It turned out that his boss was illegally building a housing complex in the city center. What finally threw their family off balance was the news that Elizabeth's mother was seriously ill. Sophie had been diagnosed with cancer, and the woman needed urgent surgery. All the savings of the young family went to her treatment and rehabilitation. They even had to sell the house in the village where the family loved to spend weekends. Fortunately, the surgery helped, and Mom soon recovered. But then a new calamity occurred from which their family could not recover. The sudden death of Michael had shaken Elizabeth emotionally, who did not know how to go on. Along with her husband, her confidence in the future had finally faded. The woman held on only for the sake of her son and her elderly mother, who were always there to support her. And now she was sitting in the kitchen, drinking her tea and thinking about what a worthless life it is. For many people it was a lack of money, career, personal life, and so on. But for Elizabeth, worthlessness consisted of a lack of purpose in life. Her ambition and desire were shattered and broken the day she saw her husband's lifeless face. The woman had hoped to the last that this was a terrible joke, a stupid medical error, and that her Michael was in fact alive. He would, as before, enter the house, pick up his son in his arms, and kiss his wife. A lonely tear rolled down her cheek from the former memories of a once happy life. Now the woman only dreamed of a good life. No, not for herself at all. Liam and her elderly mother were what Elizabeth thought of first. The thought had been firmly rooted in her mind a couple of days before, after her encounter with her classmate. She met Valeria, a former classmate, by chance in the supermarket, where she dropped in for a moment to get milk and fresh raisin muffins for Liam. For a moment she marveled at the woman who was walking toward her. Her confident, calm gait and the clatter of her heels made many men turn around. But the woman didn't seem to notice anyone around her. She was focused on choosing cheese, fruit, and a jar of caviar, sending the products into the basket. Elizabeth didn't immediately recognize the stylishly dressed woman as the mischievous, ridiculous girl she'd shared a desk with all her high school days. No, Valeria wasn't a recognized beauty like Elizabeth, but there was something about her look that attracted men like a magnet. Her hair styled, scarlet lipstick, expensive perfume, gold jewelry, and the latest model of iPhone literally screamed of her solvency. With her perfectly manicured fingers, she scrutinized the label on the expensive champagne and deftly added it to her purchases. Elizabeth became embarrassed by her appearance, the disheveled hair and bruises under her eyes. She hurried past to avoid Valeria's eyes, but accidentally caught the woman with her elbow. "Oh, I'm sorry," Elizabeth apologized as she passed by, praying to all the gods that Valeria didn't recognize her. "Oh, that's all right. It happens," Valeria responded mechanically, but looked closely at the face of the random passerby. She suddenly made a discovery to herself. "Elizabeth, isn't that you? How long has it been since I've seen you? Listen, I'm so glad to see you. Let's go to the cafe and talk. Let's go to the cash register first, because the guard is already looking at us suspiciously," said Valeria hurriedly. She deftly took Elizabeth by the hand and hurried her toward the exit of the supermarket. "Hey, Valeria, you're all talk," laughed Elizabeth heartily, for the first time in a long time. They ordered coffee and pastries for two. Valeria didn't stop talking about herself and her life. It turned out that she had her own business. She helped wealthy people find good servants who would carefully clean the mansion and keep quiet about what was going on behind the walls. She always loved to talk, and Elizabeth loved to listen. That was the secret of their high school friendship. "Why am I talking about myself? Tell me how you are doing. Married? Got kids?" "Oh, I was married, and now I'm a widow. An accident. A year ago, my husband was hit by a car. Now I live with my mother and my son, Liam. He's a bright boy. He's going to go to school this year." "Oh, God, I'm sorry. I didn't know," Valeria apologized hastily. "What about your job?" "I don't have any experience, only cleaning floors," Elizabeth replied sharply. "Floors? That idea," Valeria thought to herself. "Let me help you with a job. I have a customer here. He urgently needs a maid, and as bad luck, all the girls are busy. But I don't even know if I can do it." "Of course you can do it. You've been a horrible cleaner since you were a kid, and he pays a lot of money. And your son is going to go to school this year, and your mother is old, she told me herself. So think it over. A couple of months of work, and you'll be running around beauty salons and buying toys for the child." "Well, Valeria, you're really something. Even a deaf person can be persuaded." "All right, I'll do it," replied Elizabeth, thinking that a good salary wouldn't do her any harm. "Believe me, this job will be like a breath of fresh air for you. It's a pleasure to clean houses like this. There's crystal everywhere, antiques, expensive paintings, and if you try, you'll find a new husband. Just choose a prettier and richer one, so you'll become the mistress of the house." "What are you talking about? I don't even want to look at other men after Michael died." "What a fool! You are young and beautiful. You need to think about yourself too, and your son still needs a father. For a boy, the example of a serious and established in life man is extremely important." "Maybe you're right, but I'm not ready for a relationship yet." "Oh, Elizabeth, Elizabeth, what would you do without me?" "That's okay. We'll get your life back on track." "Valeria, but I have no one to leave my son with. Mom has not been feeling well lately, and it will be hard for her to sit with him. What should I do? Any advice?" "I'll talk to the customer and explain the whole situation. Maybe he'll let you move in with your son." "Valeria, you're great. I'm so grateful to you," exclaimed Elizabeth joyfully, feeling that life was beginning to get better. The next few days of agonizing waiting were the most difficult for the young woman. Not knowing where to put herself or what to do, she rushed from room to room in the apartment. Elizabeth was beginning to think that there was no meeting with her classmate, and Valaria was just a dream. When the phone rang a few days later, Elizabeth rushed to the phone. Her whole life depended on the decision at the other end. Elizabeth, congratulations! You are now officially employed. Pack your bags. You and Liam are moving into Daniel's country house today, and tomorrow morning you start your direct duties. Oh, thank you, Valeria. From our whole family, thank you. Don't thank me, no need. I'm the one who should be thanking you. You're the kind of friend I should be thanking. So don't relax and get ready soon. Daniel doesn't like to wait. But Elizabeth heard nothing, and she was dreaming like a little girl. Hurriedly gathered her things, she whirled around the room and hummed. Elizabeth, it's rather unexpected to see you in such good spirits. Is something wrong? Inquired Elizabeth's mother, genuinely happy for her daughter, who had not smiled once since the day her husband was gone. Mommy, life is getting better. I got a job. Oh, I'm so happy for you, daughter. I can finally see you cheerful. Believe me, Michael wanted you to be happy again. I love your late husband as if he were my own son, but he left us, and it was very painful for me to watch you torment yourself. I'm sorry, Mom. I promise I won't hurt you, Elizabeth agreed, realizing that by prolonging her suffering, she was hurting her family. When a black foreign car pulled up behind Elizabeth and Liam that evening, the young woman felt like Cinderella, who finally got to go to the royal ball. Daniel's country mansion looked like a small medieval castle. The huge park, the small pond, the shady alleys, which must be so pleasant to walk through in fine weather, attracted Elizabeth's attention. The big gray building in which she and her son were to live didn't look creepy or unfriendly at all. The polite and courteous owner of the mansion, a man in his 50s, was already expecting a new housekeeper. The previous maid was no longer able to cope with her duties for health reasons. Upon learning that Elizabeth had a child, the man did not object at all to her moving in with her son. Despite his wealth and success in business, he was extremely unhappy. As a young man, he had lost the woman he loved, with whom he was truly happy. The jealous girlfriends of the woman he loved had slandered him, and his fiancée believed every word they said. But because of his pride, Daniel did not make excuses and proved to her that all those words in his direction were lies. He did not even try to hold on to the woman he loved. Years went by, success and fame quickly came to him, but real, sincere love no longer appeared in his life. Twice he married, but all in vain. Neither of his wives could give the man a long-awaited heir to whom he would pass all his affairs. Disappointed in women, he immersed himself in work, and when he woke up, he realized that he had wasted his best years. He had houses, apartments, bank accounts, but he did not have the most important thing, the big, strong, and friendly family he had dreamed of. Elizabeth and her son immediately settled into his large home. The children's laughter, the stomping of Liam's little feet, and Elizabeth's welcoming smile filled the old mansion with light and warmth. The woman was an excellent cook and spoiled everyone with fragrant baked goods on weekends. In his free time, Daniel was happy to play with the boy, imagining himself as a caring grandfather. He told him interesting stories about his travels, built a toy railroad, and even played the role of a horse, riding the little prankster on his back. From the outside, they looked like a real family, but that was impossible. Elizabeth's mother had always talked about her father being a pilot and crashing in a training exercise. But one incident made Elizabeth doubt the truth of her mother's words. One day, while cleaning the office, the woman found her childhood photo on the desk. There could be no mistake. The picture card showed a little girl with a spiky nose and dressed in a bright yellow dress. But where did her picture come from? She was exhausted thinking about it. As he spoke of his youth, Daniel mentioned a sweetheart named Sophie, whom fate had divorced him from. Was this woman her mother, and Elizabeth his daughter? Her thoughts haunted her, and then the woman decided to invite her mother to the mansion, citing the fact that Liam missed his beloved grandmother. The very next day, Sophie showed up at the house. At that moment, she had no idea what surprise fate was about to give her. Mommy, tell me the whole truth. Who is my father, and is he dead? Elizabeth, why such questions? I've told you 100 times that he was a pilot. But then, what is my picture doing in Daniel's study? Interrupted Elizabeth. Mother, I see you have gone pale. You know that name, don't you? What did you two have in common? Is he really my father? daughter, calm down. Since you know everything, I'll tell you the whole truth. Once upon a time, we really were a wonderful couple. But after he cheated on me, we didn't get married. I left him, and then I realized I was pregnant. Out of anger, I wanted to get rid of the baby, but the last minute I changed my mind. Yes, Elizabeth, he's your real father and Liam's grandfather, but he's a scary man, and it's best you never see him again. Mom, I have only just found my father, and you want to take him away from me? Said Elizabeth in tears. How could you keep the truth from me? He didn't cheat on you at all. Your girlfriends were jealous of your happiness, so they made up lies about him, and you believed them. It was fate itself that brought us together. Actually, it wasn't fate, came a man's voice from behind her. A year ago, I found out that my ex-lover had secretly given birth to my child. All this time, I'd been looking for you, Elizabeth. And believe me, our meeting was no accident. I'm incredibly proud to have such a wonderful daughter and grandchild. And Sophie, I'm so sorry. I really was faithful to you. I was young, stupid, I didn't appreciate my happiness. The years have passed, but I still love you. Maybe we have a chance for happiness after all. Even though we are no longer young, but we have many beautiful moments ahead. Darling, how silly you and I have been. And I love you more than life, too, Sophie replied, snuggling against his strong shoulder. That's how fate gave the two lovers a chance to be happy again. And Elizabeth learned a simple truth. We must not be afraid to love and be loved. Love does not tolerate timidity, because tomorrow may never come. And she also knew that Michael was looking down on her from heaven and blessing her to try to be happy once more.